Year 2006. Do you remember the best cars on the road? Well, according to Car and Driver, names like the 599 GTB Fiorano, Pagani Zonda F, Lotus Exige S, and Lamborghini Murcielago Coupe might be the most obvious answers. A few years back, no one even dreamed of electric cars, hybrids, and fuel-efficient vehicles. Audi decided to use diesel, something totally contrary to what was working, something considered the devil's fuel, something that in their minds would be the perfect recipe for a car to compete in Le Mans, to race fast but still be efficient. And like many crazy ideas that humans have, this was another one under the influence of alcohol from some engineers in a bar, and yes, they created a monster, the Audi R10 TDI, a 5.5 liter V12 turbo diesel, a beast with enough torque to spin the earth a bit faster. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but ask yourself, why did Audi decide to experiment with diesel in one of its most expensive and ambitious projects of all time? Why spend 70 million a year to create something that generated disbelief and doubts before even starting in one of the toughest races in the world? Part 1. The reasons. Genius and insanity is an extremely thin line. For a competitor to stand out, break out of mediocrity, and forge a legacy that enters history, they must walk that line. They must adopt the mentality of a champion when 99% of people are content with enough. A champion asks, how can I be better? Mike Tyson spent hundreds of hours perfecting his hooks. Kobe Bryant's dedication to mastering his footwork on the court exceeded the limit of obsession and brushed against madness. That's why champions are champions. They don't think like most people. They see the world differently. They ask questions that other people don't. We're already winning. How can we win more? This is the question Audi asked in the early 2000s when they decided to create something for the world of endurance racing again, since Audi was soaring in the years leading up to the 2006 race, completely crushing the competition with their famous R8 in the LMP 900 and LMP 1 classes, amassing victories in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004, and 2005. Audi dominated, no one disputed, but as superior as they were, their dedication to innovation bordered on madness sometimes. And despite Audi's nearly impeccable track record, what they were trying to achieve was something that had never been done before, because at that time, there was a simple reason why everyone chose gasoline engines. They worked very well. They could rev high, creating more peak power than diesel engines, in addition to being lighter and more responsive for the driver. Their compact size made it easier for engineers to fit everything in a race car. Gasoline engines had a long history of refinement and improvements over time, a more effective development process. Another important factor, in endurance racing, engine configuration played a significant role. Since it was not a short race, it was a grueling 24-hour marathon where reliability and fuel efficiency took precedence over brute power, along with all the pit stop dynamics. On the streets and tracks, they were also seen as slower, heavier, and less responsive. The entire automotive culture of the time viewed diesel engines as something that belonged to heavy industrial vehicles. Previous technologies prevented diesel engines from reaching high enough RPMs to be competitive in most races. Designing a diesel car that matched the speed and agility of gasoline engines without sacrificing efficiency and reliability would mark a new era in the world of motorsport. Along with this, a possible victory at Le Mans with that engine would not only solidify Audi's domination in motorsport, but also significantly boost sales of diesel cars for street use. And with a clear goal, there was one thing left to find out. Part 2. How to do it. Like many crazy ideas, this one was born in a bar. The idea that a diesel-powered sports prototype could someday compete for victory in the 24 hours of Le Mans would have seemed so absurd that it could only have been conceived under the influence of alcohol. And so it began. Some figures from that booze-filled night included Audi Sports head of engines Ulrich Baretsky, and two of the most important officials from the Automobile Club de l'Ouest at that time, Daniel Poissonneau and Daniel Perdrix. The topic of diesel engines came up in light of an earlier conversation Audi Sports head Wolfgang Ulrich had with Le Mans officials about the need to incorporate new technologies into LMP rules. The idea was so unusual that he tried to forget the possibility of convincing Audi to use a turbo diesel at Le Mans. Then, only 2 years later, he had an epiphany. I realized that if another company besides Audi, a pioneer in direct injection diesel for street cars, took that technology to Le Mans and won, I would regret it for the rest of my life, he said. However, gaining the support of Audi's board would be a much harder process, and it would require a team of the best engineers on the planet, led by a visionary leader brave enough to transform such a bold vision into reality. One of Beretsky's main allies was an engineer who would become his adversary at Porsche, Wolfgang Hatz, the then head of engine development at Audi, who would later bring Porsche back to Le Mans with the 919 hybrid program, supported the idea. He was in the process of bringing FSI direct injection technology, pioneered in the 2001 R8 LMP900 gasoline car, to Audi's production line. He was about to demonstrate the direct connection between racing technology and street technology by introducing direct injection for both. The R10 could be a means to change the perception of cars, as they were known as oil burners in the United States. But Ulrich couldn't do it alone. He recruited another guy, Rolf Berentelg, Audi's engine designer, and his team of engineers. Despite their skills, they had a lot of work ahead. To tackle this, the team developed a lightweight aluminum block for the engine, significantly reducing its weight, but it was a shot in the dark due to the lack of experience. Another challenge was achieving greater power to compete with gasoline engines. Audi's solution was to implement advanced turbocharging technology, equipping the R10 TDI with 2 turbochargers to boost its power, but they didn't stop there. They also focused on improving fuel efficiency and reliability by introducing a new fuel injection technology. The project used a Bosch common rail injection system capable of delivering fuel at pressures up to 23,000 psi. This allowed for more efficient combustion and also increased power. With all the components in place, testing began, and the results were impressive. After 10,000 hours on Audi's engine dynamometer, the engine reached an impressive 650 HP, making it the most powerful in the world for its size at that time. Even more striking was its torque, an impressive 1100 Nm, which allowed the R10 to accelerate quickly, maintain its speed and momentum over long distances without needing to downshift frequently. An engine with a lot of torque operates more comfortably within its power range, reducing wear and increasing reliability. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of the engine was its torque delivery, with 80% of its torque available from just 2,000 RPM, extending up to its redline at 6,500 RPM. Although this redline was lower compared to gasoline engines of that time, which reached up to 12,000 RPM, this allowed Audi's car to accelerate out of corners like no other, and it could do so in almost any gear. Audi knew they had created something special with this engine, and to complement it, they designed an ultra-lightweight chassis for the car, developed in collaboration with Dallara, renowned for their work in Formula 2 cars and other racing leagues. The engine was strategically positioned very low and as far forward as possible within the chassis. This not only improved weight distribution, but also gave the car its distinctive open-top visual, for which it would later become known. The Audi R10 TDI was now ready for Part 3, the damage. Records show that the R10 TDI won its debut at the 12 Hours of Sebring in March 2006, at that time a stage of the ALMS, already having a consecrated place in Audi's preparations for Le Mans. In the early months of 2006, the car-destroying circuit became a home for its test team. Obviously, many problems occurred at the stage, adjustments from various sides, but it was a promising start. However, they would only return to the tracks for Le Mans in June. Audi also needed to choose its drivers, skilled enough to tame this beast on a colossal track like Le Mans, without making mistakes that could cost everything. Le Mans drivers needed serious endurance and resilience to get through the long hours. Pure speed was not enough. In front of a record crowd of 235,000 spectators, driving the R10 would be 5-time Le Mans winner German Frank Biela, joined by former Formula 1 driver Emanuele Pirro, who raced for Benetton and Dallara from 1987 to 1991, and alongside them was German Marco Werner, known for his ability to maintain good lap times for long periods without making mistakes, in addition to the rare achievement of winning the Triple Crown in the American Le Mans Series. Audi entered 2 R10s in this race. The second car was driven by Dindo Capello, Alan McNish, and Mr. Le Mans himself, Danish driver Tom Christensen. Christensen earned his nickname due to his extraordinary record in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, holding the record for most victories with a total of 9 wins. Later, he would be known as one of the greatest endurance racing drivers of all time. But as preparations were underway, Audi received some disturbing news. Their main rivals, the Pescarolo Sport Team, founded by former Le Mans racing driver Henry Pescarolo, were bringing their own experimental secret weapon to the track, the Pescarolo C60 Hybrid. An evolution of the previously successful C60 model, it was an incredible feat of engineering, powered by the famous Judd GV5 V10 engine of 5 liters. This car was like the fighter jet of endurance racing, capable of flying for 24 hours without losing firepower. It was fast, aerodynamic, and extremely reliable. Audi's rival was bringing the big gun to the fight. They had heard about Audi's little experiment, and they were serious about taking it down. As preparations were finalized, the race day loomed just beyond the horizon. The stage was set, the team waited anxiously. Questions began circulating in their minds. Despite reservations, Audi was only 24 hours away from sending a shockwave through the motorsport world. As the cars entered the track, the race began, and what happened next surprised everyone. They would witness something unique. Not only were Audi's new experimental TDI engines competitive, but they were also easily the fastest and most fuel-efficient cars on the track. No one could believe it, but diesel was beating gasoline throughout the race. At least one of these innovative diesel sports cars from Ingolstadt consistently led the pack. Tom Christensen, a celebrated figure in Le Mans history, set the fastest lap. He also became the first driver in a Le Mans sports car to complete 16 laps on a single fuel tank. Audi also set a new distance record by completing 380 laps. The fuel efficiency of Audi's TDI engine was on full display. Drivers generally needed to refuel only every 14 laps, receiving 90 liters of Shell V-powered diesel, while competitors using gasoline engines needed to make pit stops much more frequently. Spectators were also impressed with the silence of such a powerful 650 horsepower sports car. It was a whisper on the Mulsanne Straight. People were practically writing checks for their future new Audi diesel car while admiring this revolution. Although the launch of the Audi R10 TDI took place just 200 days before the race, it proved to be as reliable over 24 hours as its predecessor, the 5-time Le Mans winner R8. However, the team faced problems at 3:47 in the morning. There was an issue with the 5th gear, leading to an unscheduled pit stop, with the Pescarolo closing in. This was bad news, but despite regulations preventing the complete replacement of the rear end, the innovative gearbox design allowed the team to complete this task in less than 10 minutes. Before they knew it, they were back on the track and leading the pack. Another problem occurred on Sunday morning. With the car driven by Frank Biella, Emanuele Pirro, and Marco Werner, a broken headlight led to the complete replacement of the front end. Although initially leading the pack, Audi's R10 TDI faced problems, including replacing injectors on the right cylinder bank of the V12 TDI engine during the 4th hour. This dropped them to 16th place. They also faced more issues, including a collision that required a complete turbo replacement. But nothing would stop Audi that day, and they quickly overcame those challenges. And beyond those incidents, the R10 performed flawlessly. The team's resilience and efficient repairs by the mechanics secured their positions on the podium. Audi's team's success didn't end there. The car driven by Dindo Capello, Tom Christensen, and Alan McNish finished in 3rd place on the podium. The second car was almost as dominant as the first. Even after losing nearly an hour with all that in the pits, after 24 grueling hours, Audi secured a dominant victory, proving something surprising to the motorsport world. Diesel can beat gasoline. After the victory, the team was ecstatic. Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich was quoted saying, "This was already Audi's 6th victory at Le Mans, but by far the most difficult and important. Only 200 days, the most intensive in Audi sports history, separated the launch of the R10 TDI and the start of the Le Mans race. I want to thank every member of Audi Sport and Mr. Le Mans." Tom Christensen said, "I feel very emotional now. Everyone will know what TDI power means. This project started not so long ago as a blank sheet of paper and has already triumphed." The 2006 Le Mans victory was just the beginning of Audi's dominance in endurance motorsport. They continued to be a major force at Le Mans in the following years, winning numerous times and solidifying their reputation as a leader in endurance racing technology. For Audi, these victories were not just shiny trophies on a shelf. It was never about that. They were a testament to their endless desire to improve and innovate year after year, daring to walk that thin line of revolution versus madness. The fact is that they hit the mark, and their achievements in motorsport defined a generation. The four rings are in 4th place on the list of the best of all time, with 6 victories in just 8 entries at Le Mans from 2006 to 2010. They participated in 48 races and won 36 times. A craziness that makes Audi Sport a team of champions. And it's worth noting that Le Mans has always been a stage of innovations, glories, and forbidden cars that, unlike the R10, had to work much harder to make history, like the Mazda. Imagine a car that also revolutionized, one with 3 improbable drivers, one of them an ex-convict who faced everything and everyone. Pay attention to this story, as it's time for it to become a movie, The Forbidden 787B. Get comfortable, I'll see you soon.